Welcome, everyone, to the James W. Foley Freedom Awards. We are grateful to have you here tonight with us. At this time, I'd like to welcome Board Chair Ellen Shearer to the stage.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the James W. Foley Freedom Awards. The Foley Foundation's Board of Directors and staff are honored by your presence and grateful, very grateful, of your support for our vital work. Tonight would not be possible without our generous dinner sponsors. Please take the time to get to know their names, which will be shown on the screen throughout the evening. We are deeply grateful to them and to you. Thank you for helping us to serve families enduring unbearable tragedy. Thank you for helping us to offer journalist safety training to our nation's courageous journalists. Thank you for believing in our mission. In June, it will have been 10 years since President Obama issued Presidential Policy Directive 30, PPD 30, that created the hostage enterprise. In August, it will be 11 years since James Foley was brutally murdered by ISIS after 2 years of being held hostage. Just a few weeks after that terrible tragedy, Diane Foley began the work of creating a community to raise Americans' awareness about the horror of international hostage-taking, to ensure that our government made it a top priority to secure the freedom of all Americans wrongly held abroad. Tonight, let's celebrate how far we have come since PPD 30 was issued. Think about the growth in our government's focus on hostage-taking and wrongful detention in Congress, the White House, and the new organizations created by PPD 30. And look at how big our community has become. So many organizations and individuals working toward a common goal of freedom for all Americans unjustly held abroad. In the room tonight are families of hostages, survivors of hostage taking, those who mourn the loss of loved ones, journalists, people who have dedicated their careers to public service, and our many NGO partners. I'm part of this community because Jim was my student as he studied national security journalism at Northwestern University's Washington program. When we lost Jim, we lost an important voice in journalism. Diane Foley and I knew we could do more to help aspiring journalists learn safety techniques, and we set out to address that gap. This is our community, responding in the face of tragedy, seeking to protect others from harm, and turning heartbreak into miracles. It's difficult work, but together we have done incredible things. Since 2015, when the hostage enterprise began, at least 160 Americans who were held hostage or wrongfully detained have come home. Yes. That includes 15 since the start of this year. That is something to celebrate. But we also keep front of mind that at least 47 Americans are still being unjustly held. We embrace those who have returned and mourn those we have lost, and always, always work on behalf of those who are not yet home. I'll end by talking about the Foundation's work and growth, especially in recent years. We have expanded our board of directors with issue experts, philanthropic leaders, and individuals who reflect the needs of those we serve. And by the end of this year, we will have increased our staff by over 50%, giving us the capacity to expand our work supporting hostage families, increase our advocacy for hostage issues, expand our research efforts, and extend our journalist safety training to more working journalists. As you hear about our work and the work of this community, we invite you to consider furthering the work of the Foley Foundation through a donation before you head home. We ask for your help to work toward a future without hostage taking. There are donation pledge cards on your tables. Even easier, get out your phones. You can do it right now. You can use the QR code that's above me on the screen to donate. And if you don't use it now, it will appear throughout the evening, so you'll have plenty of opportunities. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, and now we welcome an invocation.
Please welcome to the stage Father Fred Zagone.
Good evening. Over 10 years ago, the remarkable life of Jim Foley tragically ended. We prayed for many things, including the release of those still held captive, and an end to the violence that prompted these atrocious acts. We can say that thanks to Diane Foley and the work of the James Wright Foley Legacy Foundation, we have accomplished so much, yet we still have so much more to do. We continue to pray for healing and an end to the taking of innocent Americans and others around the world. We strive for a change in the landscape of the political situation and for the best of American justice. Jim Foley was a man for others, as we challenge all Marquette students. Jim was called in a unique and special way to follow the Lord. He was inspired to be a messenger for the people of Syria and other places. We pray for the people he so loved as we pray for Jim and his family. While we grieve tonight isn't about grief and loss. It's about celebrating the life of James Foley. We pray for those who value moral courage, our freedom of speech, protection of all citizens, independent conflict journalists, and basic human rights for all people. We especially pray for Judy Woodruff, Joshua Geltzer, Christine Amanpour, and Perry Abraham, Sandra Wang, in addition to Brittany, Vincent, and the late President Jimmy Carter, who we honor this evening. May God give all of us continued faith, courage, and strength. Tonight we pray further for two very special people we recently lost, Pope Francis and Grandma Olga Wright. We ask that they have eternal rest, and may they be at peace with Jim. And finally, we ask God to bless the food that we share when many are hungry. We pray for our fellowship when many are lonely. We pray for the freedom we enjoy in a world where there is so much unrest and war. Let us give thanks for all of God's truly marvelous gifts. We ask all these things of God, our loving Father. Amen.
Now, please welcome to the stage our president and founder, Diane Foley.
Welcome, everyone. I truly thank God for all of you. You know, each one of you in your own way has transformed my moment of profound grief into a celebration of joyous freedom. And that is what we celebrate tonight. We celebrate the freedom of all you wonderful people. And it's your goodness, your moral courage and generosity that has transformed our country's response to hostage taking from a policy that shamefully abandoned American captives into a miraculous force to bring them home. I started the James W. Foley Freedom Awards in 2016 because we were looking for a way to bring families together. We wanted them to meet the good people in the government and journalists who could tell their stories, because most Americans really don't understand that this is even going on. I hope to raise the plight of innocent U.S. nationals targeted abroad by malicious actors. Jim always had a way of bringing people together Those of you who knew Jim, this is Jim, you know. But I'm truly astounded at how this community has grown. We just keep getting more and more wonderful people. Because when bad things happen, that is when good people like you step up. So that's what gives me tremendous hope. Hope that our country can stay unified around our moral commitment to fellow Americans who are wrongfully detained abroad or kidnapped while traveling internationally. Your presence gives me that hope, that together we can find ways to shrewdly deter the use of innocent human beings being used as political pawns in international relations. I'm so proud to say that both Republican and Democratic presidents have embraced this U.S. government structure that was set up in 2015, 10 years ago, by Presidential Policy Directive 30, and then codified by the Robert Levinson Hostage-Taking and Accountability Act in December of 2020. And we have their wonderful family here with us tonight. It's taken all of us working together to make this progress. And thankfully, in the last 2 years, Congress, on a broad bipartisan basis, has steadily bolstered the Levinson Act, providing more desperately needed support for families of hostages and the support for reintegration of returnees, because it's tough when you're gone for years and, you know, life has changed when you come home. And the new Trump administration has fielded a foreign policy team that has already set a record pace for returning Americans from captivity abroad. Through Secretary Rubio, Special Envoys Grinnell, Witkoff, and of course the Special Envoy for Hostage Response, Adam Boehler, much has already been achieved in 100 days. We're so deeply grateful for that swift action that's returned over 45 fellow Americans in the last 100 days. I mean, that's quite amazing. And we were so hopeful that Special Envoy Boehler would be with us this evening. He had offered to do our keynote, but unfortunately he had to cancel. So we're hoping that he's out in the world negotiating on behalf of a fellow American, and wish him Godspeed. But as we take stock of these historic successes, we are ever mindful of the threats that Americans working and traveling abroad continue. They continue to evolve. Speak to any journalist or family member who's gone through this ordeal, and you can see that much more needs to be done. Over the last decade, the nature of the threat has dramatically changed from hostage taking by non-state actors, though that still exists with what Hamas has so horrifically done in Gaza. But the majority of the people we see now taken are by nation states. And the Foley Foundation's research shows that at one point in 2014, there were at least 54 Americans held captive in 17 different countries. Of those, over 83% were wrongfully detained, meaning a nation state had chosen to wrongfully arrest them because they were an American citizen. So we've had so many more coming home, and we are so deeply grateful for that change and that moral courage that's been required to make that happen. But we're still reacting. We're still one step behind our adversaries. So we need to, as a nation and as an international community, find ways to deter the horror of the targeting of human beings as political pawns. Currently, we count 47 cases of U.S. nationals, but we get new cases every day. And so often, I know there are hundreds around the world that we just don't even know about. Currently, we're following 6 cases in Afghanistan, 8 in China, 5 in Gaza, 3 in Iran, 4 in Russia, 3 in Saudi Arabia, 10 in Venezuela, as well as several missing persons in Syria and other parts of the world that are private cases that we're following. The Foley Foundation's urging a whole of government study be undertaken because we have to develop a proactive national strategy to deter and prevent hostage taking. I mean, this is a human rights crime of the greatest magnitude. But we have to do it at the same time while we're bringing our fellow Americans home. And that often can be in conflict. I mean, there's no question about it. But it's critical that we develop those policies and capabilities so we can get ahead of this threat. For our part, the Foley Foundation would continue to support this work through our focused, nonpartisan research, grounded in the experience of victims and survivors of hostage taking. And we welcome any of you returned hostages and families to participate in that. We always want to hear your stories and how we can better help you and others in the future. We also want to increase journalist safety education access to help our brave journalists, domestically and internationally, who are facing threats, as well as human rights advocates and travelers. We all need to be more aware of how to protect ourselves when we travel internationally. So while the challenge is great, let's not forget that since these reforms of 2015, more than 160 fellow Americans have been freed. 160. I mean, and so many of you are here tonight. We want to ensure that that legacy, great as it is just a milestone towards a future where Americans can be safe traveling abroad, and as can journalists to bring us the truth. Our nation's most courageous storytellers need to be protected. So I'd like to take a moment now and just ask all those hostages who have returned home, I'd like you and your families to stand so we can give you a round of applause and welcome you home. Please make sure to take a moment to welcome any of those as you see these brave individuals. So as we celebrate your freedom tonight, we also applaud your commitment to helping others just by being here tonight. Your dedication to the freedom of others warms my heart and gives me a renewed hope for those imprisoned abroad. I particularly want to welcome the brave family members of Americans of currently held hostages or wrongfully detained U.S. nationals, as well as their caring families of loved ones who never returned home. And finally, I want to thank all of you generous sponsors and donors. Your generosity just humbles me. It truly does. And I am forever grateful to each and every one of you. I wonder if you'd take a moment before we eat to pray with me as we light a candle of hope for the return of currently held captives abroad. And I'd just like to invite 2 family members, Ida Dagher, representing Zach Shaheed, who's been held captive in the UAE for 17 long years, and Marina Soltani for her son Andrei Khachatorian, who's been held captive in Russia for 3 years. And I'd like to invite them to come to the table here to light a candle with me, please. Thank you so much. And I wonder if those families who currently have loved ones held hostage could please stand with their families, because this is why we're here. We're here for these families. And we want. So please make sure you have a chance to speak to some of these people, because they need us. They need this community to know that we're all together fighting for them to come home. And our second candle tonight is lit for those Americans who died in captivity. Their families continue their loved ones' brave legacy by championing the return of fellow Americans, even though their loved ones never came home. So I invite Christine Levinson in memory of her husband, Robert, and Elaine Weinstein in memory of her husband, Warren, to the stage to light a candle for all those who never returned home. Please, come on right up. Some of the brave Americans who never did come home. So we just ask you to pray for them. So thank you for being here, and please join me in my deep hope that as a nation, we will be inspired and challenged by Jim's moral courage to always prioritize the freedom of our people and the safety of our brave journalists. Enjoy your dinner. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our host, Andrea Mitchell, NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent and Chief Washington Correspondent.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome. And it is so wonderful to be here, not only to honor the wonderful people receiving awards, but to thank Diane Foley and this foundation for all you have done to raise awareness and to welcome home so many valiant, resilient, courageous people and their families, and to hold dear to our hearts all of those who did not return and are still being held hostage. The purpose of this foundation, the commitment, the resilience of Jim Foley and of everyone here, the commitment of all of you to be here and support this extraordinary group, the community, as Diane has described it, is just, overwhelming and heartwarming. So thank you. I am so honored to be introducing tonight's award winners. These are people, these are individuals who exemplify the moral courage and compassion that were really the hallmark of James Foley's life and of his work. They were chosen because their work reflects the values of the Foley Foundation, the moral courage, the compassion, and the justice. Through this annual event, the Foley Foundation highlights heroes who have dared to make a difference in hostage advocacy, press freedom, government service, and humanitarian work. This annual awards dinner, begun in 2016, brings family members of American hostages and wrongful detainees together with government officials, hostage advocates, and media professionals to assist in their loved ones' return home. It emerged, of course, from the need to draw attention to the issue of international hostage-taking and to urge our government to prioritize the swift return of all Americans unjustly detained abroad. And it was born from the profound pain that the Foley family endured during James Foley's torturous captivity and his devastating, brutal murder. From that grief, though, emerged the determination to ensure our government does everything possible to secure the freedom of all Americans unjustly held captive in other countries. The Foley family established this foundation just 16 days after Jim's murder. Think about that. 16 days after that brutal murder. This family, Diane, they got to work. Diane and the foundation successfully advocated for a government hostage policy review. Until then, so little was done. All of us in the news profession, those of us in the news media who were covering it, were really shocked and horrified by how little was done to support, to advocate for the return of hostages and to support the families and give them the information they so desperately needed. And in this review also, most importantly, included the perspectives of hostage families who had been really shut out of the process. So the result was the creation of the hostage enterprise, the federal structure that now includes the Interagency Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell, the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, and the Hostage Response Group at the National Security Council. Diane's courageous advocacy has transformed the way that successive administrations have now treated both hostages and their families. Their families really are their partners. They are engaged because they have every right, every responsibility to be engaged, to a commitment for the return of their loved ones. Diane Foley is a model of strength and resilience. She has maybe not surprised those who knew her then and knew her well, but she has really surprised so many people in the public at the courage with which she faces this tragedy and how she's transformed it into something so positive for the rest of the world, for all of us. She is a model of strength and resilience, as I say, and her selfless vision has made a huge difference in the lives of American hostages and their loved ones suffering on the home front. Now, as Ellen mentioned earlier, the generosity of our dinner sponsors helps the foundation to advocate for Americans unjustly held captive abroad and for their families, and to protect journalists through safety education. The foundation extends heartfelt thanks to such generous donors, to the Global Reach, to the New York Times, to the Salahi family, the Cervantes Group, the Sufan Group, Raritan Central Railway, M. Knight and Dr. Bhavna Shamalian, Bloomberg, the Wasserman Foundation, the Washington Post, Diane and John Foley, Player 15 Group, the Press Freedom Center at the National Press Club, the Security Foundation, to Kroll, to the PBS NewsHour, Covington and Burling, the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University, and to Marquette University. A round of applause for all of these people. And now, as we move to the heart of the evening, it is my honor to introduce our first awardee, Judy Woodruff, winner of the 2025 James W. Foley Achievement Award, a profile in moral courage. Judy is well known to many of you for the years she has spent as the senior correspondent, the former anchor, the longtime anchor, and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. She has covered politics and other news for 5 decades at NBC, where I was fortunate enough to work with her, at CNN and PBS, always with honesty, integrity, and moral courage. I may add, she is known to me as my mentor and my friend at NBC News when I came to Washington, my dear friend, along with her family, ever since. Judy's a founding co-chair of the International Women's Media Foundation and serves on various boards, including the Freedom Forum, the Duke Endowment, and so many others. She has won too many awards to mention all, but including the Duke Distinguished Alumni Award, the Edward R. Murrow Lifetime Achievement Award in Broadcast Journalism and Television, and the University of Southern California's Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. And before we welcome Judy to the stage, let's take a moment to watch a video highlighting her remarkable career and achievements.
Judy is a fantastically warm, wonderful, welcoming person, an inspiration to all of us.
Judy is an icon in the world of journalism.
You think that our country can stay strong, that our democracy can stay strong?
She is a journalist with incredible curiosity and passion for the truth.
And the word that I always think of when I think of Judy Woodruff is integrity.
Have you tried to have a conversation with some of the folks who have a different view?
People who work in this field have to be able to tell the truth and help people make the right decisions. And you could tell from the very beginning that Judy had those qualities.
She is a true journalist. She became the NBC White House correspondent very quickly. She may have been the youngest to ever do that. She went over to PBS and became really the heart and soul of their evening news broadcast.
Judy's career shows us that there are journalists who can be seen as impartial, be seen as really just getting at the facts.
She was tenacious in her questioning and tough in her questioning, but always with respect.
Judy has demonstrated moral courage throughout her career, and I think in the founding and working with the IWMF for 35 years, she has shown that she's willing to stand up to challenges, and not just in words, but in actions.
She became a leader. You listened to her and you believed her.
We feel that Judy Woodruff is very worthy of the James Foley Legacy Foundation Award for Moral Courage.
She is an icon of journalism, and I've got to tell you, she's the best friend anyone could have, and she's the best journalist that I have ever known in Washington, Judy Woodruff.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you to everyone in that video, to my friend Nick, to Leslie, to Elisa Munoz. Thank you all. Thank you to the Foley Foundation for this wonderful and far too generous award. Thank you especially to Force of Nature, Diane Foley. Whose tireless advocacy for your son and this great cause of keeping Americans abroad safe is even more awe-inspiring than it was when you began a decade ago. You turned the unthinkable into this powerful organization that stands as a beacon to any nation or any person who questions U.S. resolve in looking after its citizens. Thank you. Thank you. Before I say anything else, I want to congratulate all of tonight's amazing award recipients. Joshua Geltzer, for your important work, receiving the American Hostage Freedom Award. Christian Amanpour, iconic foreign correspondent tonight, recognized with the World Press Freedom Award. Pari Ibrahim, receiving the Humanitarian Award. Sandria Huang, recognized with the Robert A. Levinson Excellence in Government Service Award. Posthumously, President Jimmy Carter with the Bill Richardson Heart of a Patriot Award, and the co-recipients of the Bring Our Families Home Campaign Advocacy Champion Award, Brittany Griner and Vincent Kozar. Congratulations to all of you. And again, a huge thank you to my dear friend, the extraordinary Andrea Mitchell, icon. We are so fortunate to have you serving tonight as MC. A big shout out to my family, my colleagues at the PBS NewsHour sitting right here. I am so proud of them every single day. I could not literally do any of the work that I do without their support. I'm going to shout it out. It's Jeff Bennett, Amna Nawaz, Nick Schifrin, Morgan Till, Sarah Just, Ella Richardson. Thank you all. You're amazing. Thank you for being here. To my husband, Al Hunt, 45 years of marriage. It's flown by. And it is so moving to have with us this evening the families of those we have lost and those still being held overseas. I am in awe. I am in awe of what each one of you represents, what you experienced. Our hearts go out to each and every one of you. I'm deeply and incredibly honored to receive this wonderful recognition, the James W. Foley Legacy Achievement Award. But when I think about the courage of Jim Foley and of others who have put their lives on the line, who have gone into the hardest places, the darkest corners, so that the rest of us might know what is actually going on in the world, that is a courage that I can scarcely imagine. What I've done is I've covered politics, policy at the local, state, and national level. Yes, for 5 decades, I've reported on and asked questions of public officials, people in power, sometimes questions they didn't want to answer. No matter how uncomfortable, how difficult, there was always an understanding that the press is an essential part of our American system, that a free press holding up a mirror to the community, to the country, and the world keeps our people informed and keeps our democracy strong. As we sit here this evening, reporters are still very much at work on the front lines, covering war zones, watching, keeping an eye on the stories that matter to each and every one of you, Americans missing still abroad, covering the capital cities where powerful people are making decisions that affect the lives of ordinary people everywhere. Thank God they are doing the work that they do. Meanwhile, reporters in the United States, some 234 years after the Bill of Rights guaranteeing freedom of the press was ratified by the American people, these reporters are facing serious challenges to our ability to do this critical work. Part of it is the business model. People can get their news and certainly opinion for free. Why should they contribute to the salary of a reporter, of a newsroom? Part of it is technology. Information is everywhere. Do we really need a reporter pouring through thousands of pages of documents? But part of it is also an effort to intimidate news people and news organizations that ask tough questions and report unwelcome information. It is crucial. It is crucial, especially right now, that we unflinchingly support a free press. We simply report the idea that reporters can simply get out there and work to get the facts. So I accept this award tonight in the name of all the journalists who are working so hard right now around the world, across the country, and just a few blocks from where we sit to simply report the facts, to get to the bottom of the story. In the spirit of Jim Foley. He is our profile in moral courage. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Judy, for such an important message tonight. Thanks to Judy Woodruff. And now, the 2025 James W. Foley American Hostage Freedom Award is presented to Josh Geltzer, former Deputy Assistant to President Biden, Deputy White House Counsel, and Legal Advisor to the National Security Council. In 2015, as NSC Senior Director for Counterterrorism, Josh played a leading role in writing President Obama's Presidential Policy Directive, in which he established the U.S. hostage enterprise. As part of the last administration, Josh helped to secure the return of more than 70 Americans unjustly held captive. And in a letter written for this occasion, former President Biden shared, "I am proud to join in congratulating all of this year's honorees, especially Josh Geltzer, a member of my administration, for his role in securing the freedom of 50 people held hostage by Hamas." And now, please watch this video sharing more about Josh's career.
Well, what can I say about Josh Geltzer? Josh is selfless, he's kind, he is committed to hostage issues.
Josh is the most unfailingly decent, optimistic, can-do human being I think I've maybe ever met.
Josh's impact on national security, I mean, it's second to none, and across multiple administrations, I think is what's also equally as impressive.
Josh Geltzer, he was one of the main authors of President Obama's Presidential Policy Directive 30, which stood up the current U.S. hostage enterprise.
He became, in a way, the quarterback for the entire government in making sure we were doing everything we possibly could to get as many people home safely to their families.
Many of the people in my network who work on hostages outside the U.S. government always turn to Josh.
And without Josh, we would not be postured to support as a U.S. government our American citizens that are held abroad, but also the families that are waiting for them to come home.
As of the end of 2024, more than 145 innocent Americans have been brought home thanks to this structure that Josh Geltzer helped create and implement.
Josh was instrumental in putting together the deal that got Trevor Reed home. He was instrumental in getting Brittany Griner home.
And he was instrumental in getting me home. Coming out of a labor camp, coming out of a situation where you've been held hostage, you really don't trust too many people. But he's one of the people that I will trust now and in the future.
I will always value Josh for his commitment to hostages and hostage families.
Please welcome to the stage Josh Geltzer.
Thank you all so, so much. It is a great, great honor to receive this award. And I actually want to dwell on why it is such an honor to receive this award from this organization surrounded by this community. First, to receive this from you, Diane, and from the organization you have created is just deeply meaningful. You are, simply put, an American hero. You, Diane, have taken tragedy of a magnitude and a type just unfathomable to most, and you have transformed it into progress and into purpose. The U.S. government, and more importantly, the American people, approach the issue of hostage-taking and wrongful detention very, very differently from how they did a decade ago. And that is, to a remarkable degree, because of you and your persistence and your passion. Second, to receive an award named for Jim is exceptionally moving. I never met Jim, and I suppose that, strangely, the closest I came, which was as the whole world got to know him from afar in his final days, was still far too late. But the fierce courage, the indomitable fortitude we all saw from him, that is the closest I'll come to knowing him. But it's all I need to know to feel that I really do know him. That has been unforgettable to me, and it will remain so my whole life. And so to receive an award named for Jim is just remarkably humbling. And third, there is this community. Each year at this event, I say to you, Diane, and I say to John, whom I miss seeing in person tonight, I say the same thing to you. Look at what you have built. Look at those in government, in the nonprofit sector, in the private sector, in the media, in academia, in the arts, all of whom come together at this solemn yet inspiring and uplifting event each year to renew what's become a sacred shared vow for us, that we will bring Americans home, that we will work to reduce more Americans from being taken, that we will keep this issue, this brutal issue, front and center for our country and really for the world. And that brings me to a fourth reason I am so humbled and honored this evening. I have known many in this community a long time, as I've had the privilege and opportunity to try to contribute on these issues, both in government and out of it. And in various capacities, I've had many conversations with folks in this room, including some very hard ones. Conversations where I was very candid about ongoing cases or new ideas and so on. I'm not saying I was always right in those conversations, and I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding to agree to that sentiment, but what I was always, always honest. I was honest about my own views. I was honest about where we were as a government when I could speak for that. I was honest about what was, at least to me, a good idea or a bad idea, a feasible next step or a nearly impossible one. I think that's what this community wants, and more importantly, what it deserves, especially those loved ones going through the worst suffering imaginable, waiting and waiting for their family and friends to return home. But I know those conversations have been tough at times, and that makes it a particular honor to receive this award, surrounded by all of you. If I haven't been right all the time, please know that I have been honest and passionate about the cause. Which leads me to a final point about the cause. I am asked sometimes, why do you care so deeply about these issues? After all, the government and nonprofits, the two places I've tried to contribute to this issue from, address, at least at times, a lot of awfulness, a lot of horror, a lot of human suffering, and sometimes on a massive scale. So why focus so much on this? Here's my answer. Those of us who work in national security law and policy overwhelmingly deal with threats that operate in the aggregate or in the hypothetical or both. We work to prevent terrorism or weapons proliferation or catastrophic climate change, knowing that those types of dangers would harm Americans, but not knowing which Americans. This issue is different. We know with specificity the Americans suffering, the hostages and the wrongful detainees. We know, often quite personally, their families and their friends, all suffering too. We know that the plight of Americans held abroad is as horrific as any imaginable. Held captive by terrorists, thrown in notorious prisons, forced into hard labor at penal colonies. And we know what tomorrow and the next day and the next day after that will be like for them and for their loved ones, unless and until they're brought home. There is that specific, deeply personal, fundamentally human resonance here, and it stays in your brain and it stays in your heart. And that is why I have felt so very privileged to get to work on these issues and to feel like I've contributed to making some difference on them. Never on my own, always on teams. That has meant working for and with amazing public servants, many in this room, including my friend and fellow honoree, Andrea, and working for and with incredible presidents, national security advisors, homeland security advisors, White House counsels, senior directors for counterterrorism, hostage recovery fusion cell directors, special presidential envoys for hostage affairs, and many more. People willing to make what are at times really, really hard, even painful choices to bring Americans home. It has meant having the incredible support of my amazing wife, Catherine, is here tonight, to whom I owe so much. To whom I owe so very much in making it possible to work on these issues in these ways. It has meant the privilege of serving on the extraordinary board of Hostage US, and it has meant the honor of serving on the phenomenal advisory council of the Foley Foundation. Each one of those has been a great honor. And this tonight is just an extraordinary honor. Thank you to Diane, thank you to the board of the Foley Foundation, and thank you all for being such an inspiring community that will, before I see you again here next year, keep working and advocating and fighting to do what this community does, bring Americans home. Thank you.
It is now my great pleasure to present the 2025 James W. Foley World Press Freedom Award to Christiane Amanpour, CNN's chief international anchor of the network's award-winning flagship global affairs program, Amanpour, as well as the Saturday show, The Amanpour Hour. A legend in journalism for her courage in conflict zones and empathy for the victims of war and totalitarian regimes, Christiane has bravely reported from trouble spots, including the Persian Gulf War, the Kurdish uprising in northern Iraq, the 1992 outbreak of violence in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the pro-democracy movement in Eastern Europe, and many others. She formerly hosted the ABC News program This Week and has been a contributor to the CBS program 60 Minutes. Christiane's moral courage in journalism has earned Christiane every major television journalism award, including 16 News and Documentary Emmy Awards, 4 Peabody Awards, 2 George Polk Awards, 3 DuPont Columbia Awards, and the IWMF's Courage in Journalism Award. Additionally, Christiane is a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador for freedom of the press and the safety of journalists. Here's a video highlighting her remarkable career.
The whole world is going to see that you guys won't let us see what's going on. Okay. Christiane Amanpour, CNN, with elements of the Galilee division in Israel.
Well, I've had the honor of knowing Christiane for about 14 years.
As dusk fell, people were still marching. This is the entrance to the city of Basra.
She's a woman of deep compassion, personally, who really cares about humanitarian issues.
Here we are in Habila, a village that has not had any food distribution since June.
She is a fearless journalist, a woman of great courage.
Where in the Quran does it justify the killing of innocents?
She has been a journalist for 40 years. I mean, she is a veteran. Christiane started as a young journalist, right on the ground level, and she has been around the world, often finding herself in areas of conflict, because that's often where we need to get at the truth of what is happening.
When the families have finished looking at the names that are posted on those boards, they come here. This is now a memorial to the victims of the Srebrenica massacre.
We nominated Christiane Amanpour because she epitomizes the moral courage of journalism that is needed in our world today.
This is a pretty shocking picture. Would you condemn President Assad for 100,000 plus deaths? What are you so afraid of journalists, of the truth? After all your powerful calls to the world for help, are they delivering what you need to win or just not to lose?
And Christiane has been determined to seek both sides and report that truth.
You report the facts and we report the truth. She says yes, women are the future. Christiane Amanpour, CNN.
She is fearless indeed, and probably on assignment tonight. So unfortunately, Christiane is unable to be with us tonight to accept this award in person, but she has sent a video, and we share that with you now.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for this award, and I am truly sorry, truly heartbroken that I can't be with you this evening. I want to say thank you so much to Diane and the entire Foley clan for keeping Jim not just in all of our consciousness and in the heart of their family, of course, but in institutional consciousness. It is so important. I want to shout out to my friend Siamak Namazi, the longest held American in Iran. And I also want to say thank you to the administration hostage point person, Adam Baylor, because we need to know, and we are grateful that there is somebody in the government who will have our back when the going gets unbelievably rough. Now, everywhere we look, we are watching the distressing sight of democratic institutions bending. But guess not, we, the press, are not bending. In the 1984 Animal Farm vortex that we're caught up in right now, the truth still will get out, no matter how many words are banned, no matter how many organizations are banned, no matter how many journalists are threatened and intimidated. We will not be silenced, not then, not now, not ever. And no administration of any party should be surprised, because that is who we are. We still have a free press, and the reason is because we have a First Amendment. It is unique. We have always defended it. We must continue to defend it. And if we don't defend it, we'll lose it, and we will be partly and much to blame. Here are some of the recent results. The courts have finally ruled this month that the AP must be returned to the appropriate White House access, and so it has. Now, a little story about Radio Free Liberty and its vital role in the world. It was the images of Yeltsin and the crowds in Russia, in Moscow, that he had assembled against the putsch that had been launched against Mikhail Gorbachev in the summer of 1991 that persuaded the Soviet generals to withdraw. They had lost the people. Radio Free Liberty let them know that. I might be Pollyanna, but I believe that our profession should have at its core a common defense strategy. I believe that an attack on one should be considered an attack on all, for defending horrendous cases like Jim Foley's, or even for staying out together in solidarity with the Associated Press. But then again, my beliefs have been forged in the field under fire. There we know, on the battlefield, that you can only survive if allies have your back. Now, perhaps we in this profession are in need of a dose of pride, a little bit of gumption, and reacquaintance with the art of the possible. So here's a tip. Run, don't walk to Broadway. Go to see Good Night and Good Luck. George Clooney plays our patron saint of broadcast journalism, Edward R. Murrow. Not only was Murrow a brilliant World War II foreign correspondent, but after the war, he came home and he did battle here at home against McCarthy and the Red Scare. He used his talent and his heft to do something about it. In the play, Murrow quotes Shakespeare's Caesar. Cassius was right. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. And Murrow, Clooney, looks out into the crowd and asks, so what are you going to do about it? That is the question. Always remember that dissent is not disloyalty. Dissent is actually an invaluable part of the whole democratic process. The whole point of journalism is to speak truth to power, to investigate power, to hold power accountable. Now and always is the time, my friends. We have got to remain up to this task. We can't be exhausted and we can't shrug. We can't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed. We never can, no matter who's in power, no matter what country we're talking about. Thomas Jefferson had faith in us. He said, our citizens may be deceived for a while and have been deceived, but as long as the presses can be protected, we may trust to them for light. So we must have faith in ourselves to stay the course. In the name of Jim Foley, in the name of hundreds of journalists who've been killed on the battlefield in this past year, and the hundreds more who are imprisoned around the world, and in Edward R. Murrow's famous sign-off, good night and good luck.
And as only Christiane could, reminding us of first principles and what she has done, what she has accomplished. The recipient of the 2025 James W. Foley Humanitarian Award is Pari Ibrahim, Executive Director of the Free Yazidi Foundation. She courageously established the foundation in response to the 2014 ISIS genocide against the Yazidis, a Kurdish-speaking religious group from Western Asia. Pari was born in Iraq. She is of Yazidi descent. The Free Yazidi Foundation advocates for the rights of women, religious and ethnic minorities, and Yazidi genocide survivors. It has established women's and children's centers, collaborated with international justice mechanisms and law enforcement agencies to hold ISIS accountable. And it has created an enterprise and training center. Pari has spoken before the UN Security Council and the UK Parliament and has been widely published. Here's a short video highlighting her amazing work.
As ISIL has marched across Iraq, it has waged a ruthless campaign against innocent Iraqis. And these terrorists have been especially barbaric towards religious minorities, including Christian and Yazidis, a small and ancient religious sect. Chilling reports describe ISIL militants rounding up families, conducting mass executions, and enslaving Yazidi women.
What happened essentially in August 2014 was the genocide of the Yazidi community. And in the aftermath of that initial period, Pari created the Free Yazidi Foundation. And that organization is truly remarkable in what it's been able to do.
Pari, she is Yazidi, and she has dedicated her life to helping these Yazidi women, trying to bring some modicum of justice and trying to give people the lives that they deserve.
Getting psychological training for Yazidi women, both to not only to come to terms with their own trauma, but to help other women in their community was a very important part of Pari's work.
The foundation, it's been able to provide livelihood and a source of income for Yazidis in internally displaced persons camps. It has been a source of leading advocacy that has centered the experiences of Yazidi women and girls, which is really special and unique.
Pari has improved the existence of thousands of people who the world has largely forgotten about.
And we need to recognize Pari for her important, selfless work.
I can't think of many people who are more deserving of this award than Pari. What she has done is truly exemplary and has changed not just the Yazidi community, but also has helped to change the world.
Please welcome this extraordinary advocate, Pari Ibrahim.
ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I would like to thank the Foley family and the board members of this organization for this award tonight, which I humbly accept. I am grateful that the struggle and the perseverance of the Yazidi community can be highlighted today as part of James Foley's legacy. On behalf of the Yazidi community, I would like to emphasize our solidarity with Diane Foley and her family. Like our community, you too have been victims of ISIS. We Yazidis feel a sorrowful kinship with your family, and you are not alone. In August 2014, early in the morning, before sunrise, vehicles began surrounding the Yazidi villages in and around Sinjar in Iraq. The first gunshot rang out, and ISIS fighters, dressed in black, began targeting the Yazidis. This was the start of the ISIS genocidal campaign against our people. Hundreds of thousands of Yazidis sought refuge, fleeing to the mountain on foot with one goal: to survive, just like our ancestors did. Through many of the 73 previous genocides perpetrated against our people, Yazidis were surrounded by ISIS, stuck on top of the mountain in a scorching August heat, without food or water for days, and many died. But this time, the world did not ignore our suffering. On August 7th, President Obama ordered airstrikes against ISIS fighters around Mount Sinjar to prevent mass slaughter of our civilians, and the YPG forces opened a corridor from the mountain, enabling our people to flee to safer areas. And these were the lucky ones. They survived. Those who did not escape faced horrors beyond imagination. Thousands of unarmed Yazidi men and older women were killed in cold blood. Approximately 6,500 women and children were abducted, placed in buses, and transported to actual slave markets in Iraq and in Syria. I will not go into the barbaric details of what our women and children have endured, from the horrific sexual violence to other crimes of humiliation and degradation. One cannot conceive of this in the 21st century. Now, more than 10 years later, we are looking for those who were abducted. The fate of the missing is the most agonizing issue for our community. Our most recent statistics indicate that 2,594 Yazidis still remain unaccounted for. We know many of them were killed by ISIS from investigations and stories of survivors, but we also know that many are still alive. As the Foley family knows very well, family members of missing struggle with the daily agony of not knowing. Whenever a Yazidi is rescued, every family hopes that it is their loved one who has been found. Most are disappointed, forced to continue with the pain of wondering and hoping. And this uncertainty and lack of closure is incredibly damaging because one cannot move on. If you've seen the most recent article in the New York Times, you will know that the search of our missing women and children lacks the support. Right now, the missing are only a number, but behind every number is a face, and behind every face, there are families in limbo. We can only rely on international community to help us identify and rescue our missing in a systematic and coordinated way. I would like to see our Yazidis having a rolling database with images of all the missing and updated information on their whereabouts so rescue missions can be successful. Many other issues plague our community, including Iraq's failure to allocate resources to Yazidi recovery, the absence of justice in the aftermath of the Yazidi genocide, and the continued displacement in internally displaced people camps. But nothing hurts us more than the Yazidis who remain missing. Today should serve as a stark reminder that missing Yazidis continue to suffer every single day and we need to bring them back home. I'm grateful to the Foley Foundation for this award tonight. And to Diane Foley, I would like to say to you that anytime when we remember those who are missing from our community, we remember James Foley too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for a reminder of an often overlooked tragedy, the Yazidi genocide. Our next award is the 2025 Robert A. Levinson Excellence in Government Service Award, named for the longest-held American captive in history. After a distinguished career as an FBI agent, Bob Levinson was captured in Iran in 2007 and is believed to have died in captivity. The Levinson family have heroically advocated for decades to try to find answers to their father's disappearance. This award will be presented by his son, David, who is a member of the Foley Foundation Board. David?
Good evening. Tonight, I have the privilege of sharing an award that means a great deal to me and my family. The Robert A. Levinson Excellence in Government Service Award honors those who serve the United States with integrity, with honor, and with a commitment to the common good. In many ways, it reflects the life and legacy of my father, a man who dedicated himself to service and to helping others. I'm truly grateful to Diane and the Foley Foundation for the opportunity to say a few words about my dad and present this award in his honor. But I'll be honest, every year that we give this award, I find myself thinking about what would he say about an award being named after him. Knowing him, he'd probably give a small smile, shrug, and say, "This isn't about me," because that's the kind of man he was. My father spent his life in service to others, not for recognition, not for accolades, but because he loved his country and his ideals. He believed in justice and integrity, and in the idea that no matter how difficult the work, if it was the right thing to do, you did it. No questions asked, no expectation of thanks, just the courage and conviction to do what needed to be done. That kind of service isn't always seen, but it should be. And that's why this award has always been about honoring those who serve with the same quiet dedication. In past years, we presented it to public figures, senators, senior officials. But we've also made it a point to lift up the people whose names might not be in the headlines, but whose work truly moves things forward. The ones who build bridges, who drive change from within systems, and do the quiet, essential work that makes progress possible. And that's exactly the kind of work that Sandrea Huang has dedicated her life to. Sandrea has spent her career working behind the scenes to bring Americans home. She was the first intelligence advisor at the Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell. She made sure our government's efforts were strategic and coordinated. She served on the National Security Council, making sure hostage recovery remained a top priority for the administration. But beyond her official titles, Sandrea did something even more important. She gave families a voice. She made sure that we were heard, that we were informed, and that we weren't left to navigate the hardest moments of our lives alone. For my family and for so many others, it was clear that this wasn't just a job to Sandrea. She has a personal stake in this work. Her ability to truly understand, to sit with families in our pain and fight on our behalf, it's made all the difference. And that's something that no title can capture. Some leaders don't chase recognition. They earn their respect through persistence and purpose. Sandrea is one of those leaders. She's worked across agencies, turned intelligence into action, and made sure that when Americans were taken, everything that could be done was being done to get them home. And she never did it for the spotlight. Like my father, she does this work because it matters and because people's lives depend on it. And that is why tonight, this moment belongs to her. It is my profound honor to present the Robert A. Levinson Excellence in Government Service Award to someone who lives its values every day, Sandrea Huang.
The Robert A. Levinson Excellence in Government Service Award seeks to honor an individual's commitment to our country. In essence, it's designed to embody the life and legacy of my father, Robert Levinson, who was a man who dedicated his life to service.
And I can think of few people that embody that excellence more than Sandrea.
Sandrea has made a huge impact on the national intelligence enterprise in terms of the scope of her responsibilities.
Sandrea, she's been a true pioneer when it comes to the hostage and detention enterprise. Her work as the first intelligence advisor at the Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell when it was first being stood up, she really laid the groundwork for what the expectation would be in the future.
And from day one, she really set the bar very high on the standard of what the cell would become and sustain through multiple administrations.
Sandrea played a critical role in making sure that the vision for the Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell was effective and successful.
Sandrea never faltered in her commitment to hostages and families.
So this was evident whenever she worked with my family on our case. She always went above and beyond to support us in a period where we were really struggling for answers.
I think that this recognition is really just a fantastic testament to how hard she's worked. Her professionalism, her dedication can truly make a difference in the lives of everyday Americans.
When I think of someone who's excellent in government, whether there's an award or no award, I put Sandrea at the top.
Thank you so much. I'm so touched. Looking out at so many familiar faces of people that I respect and admire, being with these fellow awardees, so prestigious, I can't help but feel that this is a full circle moment, Diane. When I first started working this hostage and wrongful detention in this field in 2015, the first family, and Diane, I don't know if you know the story, but you were the first family that I had the honor of directly engaging with. And one of the reasons, as was mentioned already tonight, the Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell, which is where I worked at the time, was created was to ensure that the US government effectively shared intelligence with families and did so in a coordinated and timely manner. Those of you who have been a part of the work for a long time know that the US government previously struggled with that, and often hostage families were provided with incomplete or worse, conflicting information about their loved ones. So as a first intelligence advisor to the HRFC, I found myself sitting at the dining table in the home of Diane and John. Even though at that time it was too late to safely bring home Jim, we would spend the next 4 hours together while I shared in full what the intel community knew at that time about Jim's captivity. A couple of years later, I would have the honor of meeting the Levinson family when I was at the National Security Council, serving as the director focused on the recovery of hostages. I vividly remember the day, and not just because it was the largest family gathering that was brought into the White House during my time there. We had Christine, who's Bob Levinson's wife. We had many of the 7 children, and Christine's sister, Aunt Susie, who is a force to be reckoned with. So we were crammed in a very small West Wing room that day as a family rightfully pushed for the government to do more and take more action, and they shared stories of Bob and shared family photos, which were really some of the most kind of vivid memories that I have working with families during that time. I came away from each of these precious moments with the Foleys, the Levinsons, and so many other families, amazed and in awe of their resilience and strength. I was already aware of just how important this work was, just how much it mattered, but in those moments, I immediately came to understand the weight of the responsibility we had as a government. These families, the loved ones of our hostages and wrongful detainees, were and still are a vivid and constant representation of why this work is so crucial and why the US government needs to get it right, why we cannot rest until everyone comes home. We all have come a long way from these initial meetings, which were about 10 years ago or so. The Foley Foundation, these dinners, and the policies that the Foley and the Levinson families have crafted and helped implement are a testament to the strength and willpower of hostage and wrongful detainee families. And working with these families, for me personally, is among the most meaningful and important work I've ever had the opportunity, the honor truly, of being a part of. So to learn that I was nominated for this award by the Foley Foundation and the Levinson family makes this even much more meaningful. So Diane, John, Christine, David, Sarah, Dan, and Doug. It's a lot. I am overwhelmed. Even so, I initially hesitated to accept the award because and we did not coordinate our speeches, but maybe we should have, because I am just but one of many who are part of a team that works behind the scenes, a team of career US government employees in the national security field who work day and night silently and who are perfectly happy to continue on that way without any public recognition. Rather, we do this work because it's what's right, because it's good. We are driven by mission and a desire to serve. So I'm standing on this stage accepting this award tonight, but I want to dedicate it to all my current and former fellow US government colleagues. Many are here, but others whose names the public will never know. These US government employees get up every day and dedicate their lives in the service to this country and in the service to others, which is also what Bob Levinson did and embodies. The importance of career government employees and the partnerships they build and our joint efforts to work towards a common goal is more crucial than ever before. Recoveries are rarely single-handedly achieved by just one person. Just as we in this country and throughout government are at our best when we incorporate multiple backgrounds, experiences, and expertise into what we do, the same is true in a hostage and wrongful detainee enterprise. Recoveries are the culmination of efforts by people with backgrounds and experiences that run the gamut. On the US government side, for those that are not aware, this includes people from the intelligence community, the FBI, military special forces, victim services, the diplomatic corps, public and congressional affairs offices, and so forth. Some of my former colleagues from this enterprise are here tonight: Chris Costa, Mike McGarity, Josh, Melancy, Natalie, Kendall, Dustin, Dave Cotter, Kieran. Again, those are just a few of the amazing people that are behind the scenes every day. Successful recoveries require their expertise and knowledge on government processes, policies, and operations, intelligence sources and methods, the tactics of terrorist groups, criminal networks, and nation states, an understanding of geopolitics, historical cases and investigations, and the various national tools available to us as we work towards this common goal. And the work of these government officers and entities are only enhanced when we work with the families to collectively build recovery strategies, ensuring that we're having regular, transparent, and honest conversations and taking into account each other's thoughts and perspectives, working towards that common goal to bring everyone home. So tonight, as I say thank you again for this incredible honor, I extend gratitude to my career government colleagues. Their expertise, their tireless determination, and their dedication to service over self is what makes this work possible, and we need to continue to work together to support them and our hostage and wrongful detainee families in their efforts to bring home their loved ones. Thank you again to the Foley and Levinson families, and to my fellow U.S. government colleagues for their unwavering dedication to shining a light on and carrying the torch for this critical mission. Thank you.
I just want to thank Sandrea for what she said about government service at a time when government servants are being criticized and attacked and disparaged. It is so important after 49 years covering national news in Washington and before that local news. Government service is a really profound choice of sacrifice that people make. People like Sandrea and Bob Levinson and people like Bill Richardson. Our next award is the inaugural Bill Richardson Heart of a Patriot Award, memorializing the vibrant legacy of the late ambassador. Governor of New Mexico, Energy Secretary Bill Richardson, Congressman when I first met him. I traveled with Bill in his role as UN ambassador to Afghanistan in 1998 under Taliban rule. It was part of the search to try to get bin Laden, 1998. And to North Korea to try to negotiate for the return of some of the lost Americans, the victims of the Korean War. He was more active, as that is possible, after leaving government service, using his considerable expertise to free Americans wrongfully detained or held hostage abroad. This award will be presented posthumously to another hero of mine, someone I covered for many years, someone Judy knew very well when she started as a reporter in Georgia and came to Washington and covered the White House, the late President Jimmy Carter. And this will be presented by Steve Menzies, Chairman of Applied Underwriters and Chairman of Global Reach, and accepting the award will be Paige Alexander, CEO of the Carter Center. Steve?
Thank you, Andrea. And thank you, friends, colleagues, partners in this great, important mission. One and all from every sector of our great society, united by one purpose, bringing our fellow Americans kidnapped or wrongfully detained overseas home. My colleague, Mickey Berkman, the CEO of Global Reach, had originally planned to be here this evening to make this presentation with me. Mickey just informed me he has successfully taken off from Kuwait with one of our innocent prisoners, Tony Holden, to bring him home. This would not have occurred without the leadership of President Trump and the direct intervention of his special envoy, Adam Boehler. Our freedom is based upon our nation's commitment to the central premise of the Declaration of Independence, the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On a philosophical level, that is what we are defending, what we are fighting for, and we are winning with each initiative that returns home someone who is held hostage. It is ours to ensure the restoration to them of those very rights guaranteed to all of us. And for this collective work, everyone here deserves our respect, our support, and our nation's enduring applause, and I thank you. In today's world, it is sometimes possible for thoughtful words to move our hearts, but more than that, it is always possible for great examples beyond words to compel us to take up commitments in earnest and to act again and again decisively. Words inspire us, examples compel us. Governor Bill Richardson offered us a lasting example. He never said no to a challenge. He never took no for an answer. And he dared to form channels of communication that often meant leaving the comforts of convention. He would go anywhere and talk to anyone, and I mean anyone, if it held the promise of getting the job done. Each road was uncharted as he faced off against world leaders who were tough and calculating, but he never let fear or despondency interfere, never. To the protocols he set and his partner Mickey Bergman forged, Global Reach has emerged with new dimensionality, expanded resources, connections, negotiating acumen, and the drive of real-world entrepreneurship. We are proud of the role the private sector can play in bringing our people home. Governor Richardson's exemplary, apolitical approach has become the critical operative protocol. Above and beyond politics, that is our guide. We stand for, we defend the American people and its families. This noble work is the inspiration for the Bill Richardson Heart of a Patriot Award. It should remind us always that we must continue to act with that same focus of our organization's great founder, Governor Bill Richardson, a man who truly had the heart of a patriot beating in his chest. In that vein, our award tonight cites a man who, apart from his role as leader of the free world as President of the United States, a distinguished naval officer, a volunteer for social good, was a man of great compassion, a great patriot. And like so many compassionate Americans, whether he was in office or during his long life after the White House, President Jimmy Carter was a man of integrity, courage, and conviction. Tonight we honor him posthumously with the Heart of a Patriot Award. President Carter is represented here today by Paige Alexander, CEO of the Carter Center. May I invite you all now to enjoy this short tribute.
There can be no nobler nor more ambitious task for America to undertake than to help shape a just and peaceful world that is truly humane.
I had two goals in life. One was to get every hostage back safe and free, and the other one was never to betray the principles of my nation.
President and Mrs. Carter devote their lives to fighting disease in poor countries and resolving conflicts, as when he recently obtained the release of an American held in North Korea. It's been a life of good works and good reviews. In 2002, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts at global diplomacy.
I sincerely believe that he saved our lives. I mean, he sacrificed his presidency and worked assiduously for those 444 days to make our freedom the uppermost in his mind.
God gives us a capacity for choice. We can choose to alleviate suffering. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make these changes, and we must.
Thank you. And now to accept the Heart of a Patriot Award for President Carter, Paige Alexander, CEO of the Carter Center.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I am truly honored to accept the Bill Richardson Heart of a Patriot Award on behalf of President Carter and the family. This award is particularly meaningful given Governor Richardson's connection with the Carter Center. He collaborated with the Carter Center from our early days, doing one of the first election observations we did in 1990 in Nicaragua. And throughout the decades of the Carter Center work, President Carter conferred with Governor Richardson quite often as they faced challenges seeking justice through quiet diplomacy. I have to say, in my personal capacity, I was also fortunate enough to work with Bill on issues involving people who are now free from Russia, and unfortunately he was not around to see that, but he was a big part of it. And tonight to be here with Judy Woodruff, who I love seeing that picture of you and President Carter from when you were a cub reporter in Georgia. I know he is looking down on us now. The last time I saw Andrea, it was 10 degrees outside the National Cathedral as we were putting President Carter for his homecoming, and you were covering that so beautifully. Josh, I haven't seen since I watched his beard go gray as the PPD 30 was being written, and Pari, I will tell you, I remember August 7th through August 9th as I was acting administrator at AID and trying to get a helicopter to the top of Mount Sinjar. And Sandrea, for all the work that you have done for federal employees everywhere who, as Andrea was saying, really means a lot. These are the people who serve. My daughter's at the State Department, a bureau that was just eliminated, so I know firsthand how important it is to have federal employees focusing on this, so thank you for your work. You know, President and Mrs. Carter, along with many of us at the Carter Center, admired Bill Richardson as a tireless advocate for those most in need, and we really valued his friendship. Many wrongfully detained Americans in places across the globe owe their freedom to his behind-the-scenes negotiations. President Carter held a very similar commitment to public service and human rights, first as governor and then as president, and then later as private citizen. People forget he only spent 8 years in elected politics, and he spent 92 years as a private citizen and a global citizen. So when he and Mrs. Carter founded the Carter Center in 1982, after their, as he liked to say, involuntary retirement from the White House, they were committed to promoting peace and supporting democracy and improving health around the world. And for them and for us, respect for human rights is the foundation for a just, peaceful world, both at home in the United States and abroad. I believe we can all agree that peaceful society is far more likely when governments are responsive and respectful to their citizens' demands. And this has become particularly important when human rights leaders and civil society members can express their views without the fear of reprisal, like arbitrary detention, and a democratic nation can truly flourish. At President Carter's funeral, there was a lot of talk about his legacy and how his lasting legacy would be as the first president to explicitly make human rights the center of his foreign policy. He felt strongly that the U.S. had an active role to play in the release of thousands of political prisoners throughout Latin America and championing freedom in Eastern Europe, as Christiana Amanpour talked about, and she and I worked together in '92 in Bosnia,
And these were the people that needed the attention. So opening doors to the immigration of many of the Soviet Jewish community, of which I come from. In Iran, he placed the safety of hostages above his political future, as Barry Rosen just talked about, taking responsibility for the rescue mission outcome and working tirelessly up until his very last day and even after his defeat to secure the release on that last day of his presidency. His post-presidency, with a profound commitment to the rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that says, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary detention, arrest, or exile. President Carter secured the release of political prisoners in North Korea and in Gambia. So at the Carter Center, we continue to honor President Carter's legacy with a commitment to promote human rights around the world. We support these global and domestic human rights defenders who are working against democratic backsliding and the rise of authoritarian regimes. And we will continue to hold our Human Rights Defenders Forum, highlighting these brave individuals who do this on a daily basis and to build solidarity and community among those fighting for their rights. So I also want to emphasize the fact that the heroic work of so many journalists, as has been mentioned here today, including the late Jim Foley, of which I had the Syria portfolio at the time. So I remember the stories, although I was not active, but his memory lives large, as you can tell, in everyone here today who is remembering this moment and the work that you've put together, Diane. So, and those who risk their lives every single day for the safety to accurately report the news so that we may advance the world's understanding of what's happening across the globe. It is as important to do this work internationally as it is right now domestically, as Andrea talked about. The domestic audience gains knowledge and facts from those brave reporters who share these stories with us, and for that we are indebted to their courage. So we are committed to fulfilling the legacy of President and Mrs. Carter's work over the years, over 40 years at the Carter Center. They advocated tirelessly for the rights of all people. And we will continue to spread awareness, foster empathy, and support journalism, and fight for a world where human rights are respected and upheld by all. So on behalf of the Carter family and the Carter Center, it's truly an honor to accept the inaugural Bill Richardson Heart of the Patriot Award for President Carter. May we all continue in the footsteps of those two patriots who sought a better world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paige. And the memories of Jimmy Carter and of what President Carter achieved are so vibrant that the legacy is, continuing, especially as we sit here tonight. The last award of the evening is the Bring Our Families Home Campaign Advocacy Champion Award, to be presented by Nita Shargi, former chair of the Bring Our Families Home Campaign, who is now a member of the Foley Foundation Board. Nita's brother was held in Iran for 5 years before, thankfully, his release in 2023. Nita, can you come to the stage?
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you. So we started the evening acknowledging and talking about our families and families of loved ones who are held abroad and who have come home. I stood on the stage 2 years ago as a sister of an American wrongfully detained in Iran and as chair of the Bring Our Families Home campaign, a campaign started and led by family members of American hostages and wrongful detainees. I spoke at that time about why we had felt the need to create the campaign even though we were already so overwhelmed by our own individual advocacy on behalf of our loved ones. I spoke about our families feeling ignored by the media and our loved ones not prioritized by the government. Today, I am happy to say my brother is home. And I stand here on behalf of the campaign, which is now housed within the Foley Foundation, and for that we are so grateful. But I'm here to thank two individuals who understood what we were going through and who used their personal platforms and those of the organizations they represented to shine a light on our campaign and on our brothers, sisters, parents, and children wrongfully held abroad. Brittany Griner is a champion in so many ways, but to the families in our campaign, it is her integrity and selflessness that deserve the highest recognition. At a time when she should have turned inwards to heal after her return home, to adjust to her freedom and to focus on her family and her profession, she chose instead to use every game and every media opportunity during the 2023 WNBA season to bring attention to our campaign. And Vince Kozar, as the president of the Phoenix Mercury, rallied his team, the fans, and other teams in the WNBA to step up for our loved ones, just as they had for BG during her wrongful detainment. Because of Vince and BG, we were able to share the stories of our loved ones to a broader audience beyond our imagination.
Before there was Brittany Griner, it was extremely difficult for families to get attention on a national level.
I was very worried that now that Brittany was home, our campaign would not be getting as much of the attention that it had gotten because Brittany was a superstar and the rest of our loved ones were not superstars. They were just ordinary Americans. January of 2023 that I reached out to Vince. We need help. We need Brittany's help. We need the Mercury's help to bring attention to what we were doing and who we were fighting for. Within a week, Vince and his team responded and with like a 10-point plan about how they were going to keep the spotlight on the campaign and on our families.
Brittany set forth a determination in her mind of helping people who had been similarly impacted. And Vince, being the leader that he is, he was somebody that absolutely took that, ran with it, and said, hey, don't worry, like, we're gonna make sure that we can do what we can.
We engaged fans in grassroots activism. We hosted letter writing stations at our home games. We asked fans to sign petitions. We highlighted different families that were a part of Bring Our Families Home.
They made sure to use every single way they could to elevate the rest of the families.
The first game that Brittany played when she came home from Russia, I walk into the stadium and I see everyone wearing these t-shirts. It's a t-shirt with the Mercury logo and our Bring Our Families Home logo, and on the back were listed the names of all of our loved ones who were being held. It just gave me so much hope.
And then that mural is just, it's still up outside of our arena. It showcases an image of Brittany in the center.
But then all of the faces of these other detained family members that were also placed around her.
It's really impactful.
Vince and BG are champions.
Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Vince, for all that you have done for the Bring Our Families Home campaign.
Please welcome President of the Phoenix Mercury and Valley Suns, Vince Kozar, and an advocate in her own right, and the wife of Brittany Griner, Sherelle Griner.
want to go first? Of course you are. Good evening. It is an incredible honor to accept the Foley Freedom Award on BG's behalf. It feels full circle for me to be here as I attended this very event a few weeks after BG's detainment in 2022. I was in shock and completely broken as I was finding my stance during my wife's wrongful detainment. I found great comfort in being in this very environment with the company of so many who shared my experience and made it back home. I also vividly remember feeling weak from those who shared my experience and loved ones were still not home. The reality that years may pass before seeing my wife was actualized through their shared experience. So I say to the loved ones experiencing that reality today, I see you. I am you. Stay hopeful and relentless in your advocacy efforts. And when you really, really cannot, rest assured that we, your collective hands, we can and will. To Diane, this award means so much to my wife, not only for the community it represents, but for those who it's named after. James Foley stood for truth, courage, and humanity. BG and I both deeply admire the work the Foley Foundation does to protect journalists, advance freedom, and support families navigating the unthinkable. BG's wrongful detainment changed our lives forever, and while we are grateful every day that she's home, we still carry a deep awareness of the many others who are still being held far from their home, including journalists, hostages, and political prisoners around the world. This award is a reminder that advocacy matters, that freedom is always worth fighting for, and as we experience with so many of you in this room, that collective hands will build a community across demographics in the most unexpected ways. On behalf of BG and our family, thank you all, especially Roger Carson. Josh Geltzer, and the entire SPIHA team. Mickey and the late Governor Richardson. Karen Finney and our Wasserman family. Terry Jackson and the WNBPA. Vince and the Phoenix Mercury for the support and platform to raise awareness. Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA players. Netta and Bring Our Families Home. Representatives Greg Stanton, Colin, and the late and Admiral Sheila Jackson Lee. Journalists and anchors Angela Rye, Abby Phillips, Gail King, Joy Reid, and all who gave me a platform to advocate of my wife's return. The various organizers, including Joteka Eddy and Win with Black Women, and to all of you for standing with us, for your continued support for families, and for continuing to shine a light on every individual still waiting to come home. Thank you.
I'm not one for, usually one for self-deprecation. I think it's pretty dumb, but to stand up here on this night with all of these honorees and following all of these folks, I feel pretty incredibly unworthy. But instead of saying that, I'll just say thank you. Thank you for making our organization a part of this night, for all you've built here, Diane. And for the work of the honorees here tonight. I think it goes without saying, but you're changing the world. Bring Our Families Home, folks like Mickey, Netta, the work you're all doing. I know you know this, but it's vital. It's saving lives, it's reuniting families, and 3 years ago, last February, I would have had no idea. I'm a firm believer in the idea that when we know better, we do better. I think that's a call for us to learn, to be the ones learning better so we can do better, and a call for us to educate and spread awareness, to help others understand the need for their engagement and participation so that they too can do better. The whole journey with BG's wrongful detention for us and our organization was one of learning. To Sherelle and Brittany Griner, you were our family before February 2022. You're my family today. And showing up for you, and by extension, all of the families on the back of that t-shirt, the best way we knew how, wasn't ever a question. It was our only answer. Sherelle, to see your strength up close every day, and your unflinching belief that BG was coming home, anything I did was following your lead. Outside of BG, Netta Shargi might be the strongest person I've ever met. Selfless doesn't do it justice when you yourself are someone missing a family member and then put all your energy into working to reunite other families. That takes an empathy and fortitude that I can scarcely fathom. She taught me that the biggest fear of families in these situations is their loved one being forgotten. And then she worked to ensure that no one was forgotten. I think the luckiest of us in our lives have had someone in our ear along the way who have said that we can ask for more and we can do more and we can do better and we can create something that's better than we now have. And though she's not in the room right now, that person for me is BG's agent, Lindsay Colas. Lindsay's the reason I came to know Bring Our Families Home. She introduced me to Netta, and whatever got me to this podium tonight, Lindsay is the foundation of that. So I just want to thank her. Lindsay, I love you and admire you, and we can indeed do more. Folks like Ambassador Karstens taught me that there are wonderful, selfless public servants in this world. Many of you are in this room tonight, I've learned, who get up every day devoted to helping people they've never met, committed to protecting the humanity of people they've never, ever met. My team, some of whom are here tonight, Josh McCann and Max Menemeyer, and our fans taught me that the humanity that connects us is also what moves us to show up for each other, for those in crisis, and in our case, for BG. December 7th, 2022, I went to bed after reading an article in The Athletic where they named BG, who was still detained, one of their People of the Year. December 8th, I woke up to the news that she was headed home because of the work done by the people in this room. So whatever small thing I helped our organization do in service of the large thing the people in this room endeavor to do every day, well, I will be forever grateful and humbled by that experience for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Well, Victor, I think many of us in this room feel unworthy and humbled by the presence of so many great and heroic people, and principally by Diane Foley. Diane, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and others to participate in this great venture. And the mission goes on. And thank you for your courage in the face of true horror. It is indeed a night of celebration for all those who are coming, who have come back, and celebration and hope for those who will. And thank you and gratitude to to all who have worked so hard. And congratulations again to all of the honorees, the award winners. Their moral courage inspires all of us. And to conclude our program, I welcome to the stage Benjamin Gray, Executive Director of the Foley Foundation, for concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you all. 2 announcements before I get into the final remarks. One is that tomorrow you should all know that the Bring Our Families Home campaign continues. There are 11 families who are gathering tomorrow in Georgetown, M Street, write this down, Levain Bakery, 10 a.m. for a press conference to get attention for their loved ones held in 5 different countries around the world. You are all invited so the party can continue and in support of the family members. Second, during the course of today's dinner, we had an anonymous donor approach us with a challenge. The donor is willing to put forward a $10,000 matching gift to the foundation if you also contribute to that number. So I would ask you, please, to consider a donation to the foundation. Unfortunately, tickets don't quite get us there in terms of furthering the mission of the foundation. It helps, but it's not enough. There are cards here right on your table. This QR code will take you right to a place where you can donate. Please consider a donation. With those 2 announcements out of the way, I just want to share some final remarks. We've come to the conclusion of our event. Please join me in giving our award winners, our talented MC, Andrea Mitchell, a final round of applause. As you depart from here tonight, I want to leave you with just one thought: gratitude. Gratitude for our sponsors who underwrote this event. You make the foundation's work possible on behalf of others. Gratitude for individuals like our award winners who have put the needs of others before their own security, before their own careers, and instead focusing first on serving others, and in so doing, inspiring moral courage in all of us. Gratitude for the journalists assembled here today whose work is critical to the functioning of a healthy democracy, thanks to constantly seeking the truth and bringing it to us. Gratitude for the families of Americans held hostage or wrongfully detained, whose unflagging advocacy and dedication to your loved ones' freedom inspires us and also holds us accountable for bringing them home. Gratitude for the leaders of all parties who prioritize winning the freedom of Americans over winning political debates. Gratitude for Diane Foley, who channels Jim's spirit, a spirit that challenges us to do better, to reach higher, and to help those whose stories, help to know the stories of those who are hidden from view. Gratitude for the Foundation's advisors and board members for your wise counsel and your steadfast support. Gratitude for the staff of the Foley Foundation, especially Amy Coyne, without whom this event would not have been possible. Gratitude for the many public servants in this room whose dedicated, quiet work behind the scenes serves and protects all of us, even if that work never becomes public. Gratitude to our NGO partners whose work complements and magnifies our own, enabling all of us to better serve the vulnerable. And finally, gratitude to this community, this passionate, tenacious, sometimes argumentative, sometimes raucous, but above all, a deeply caring community that together secures and safeguards the life and liberty of everyday Americans. Friends, we know there is evil in this broken world. We've seen it up close and personal in the face of its victims. And our work our caring, and our collective expertise together are required to bring about a world in which all of humanity can survive and thrive in peace. Let's keep up the good fight until the fight is won. Thank you for coming, and God bless you all.